feel like this time of year is when I really want to replay Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.
Because you want the scaries?
The spooky scaries.
The skeletons?
It's like I'm trick-or-treating without actually trick-or-treating.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a different take on Majora's Mask that I've ever heard
It's because you wear the mask.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you were going at the angle of, like, wearing a costume. I thought you meant just, like, going around a place and, like...
Well, I guess technically you are trick-or-treating. You go to all of these places. You go get some treats in that you get masks and items. And you find random candy-looking things that are actually money.
This is a fascinating new take on Majora's Mask that I haven't heard before.
It's Trick-or-Treat Simulator.
Imagine their marketing text entirely changes. They're like, actually, we take it back. This is Trick-or-Treat Simulator.
Do you feel too old to trick-or-treat? Well, do we have the game for you?
And then you get there and you have your first transformation with the mask and you're just scarred as a child.
Why play Costume Quest by Double Fine when you can play Majora's Mask?
They're the same thing, really.
They're the exact same thing.
Oh my gosh.
But welcome to ThoughtCast, the video game podcast. I'm John.
I'm unfortunately Allie.
Oh no.
I have to talk to you.
Well, hopefully today's guest, KingK, had a little bit of a better experience chatting with us.
Oh, yeah. I feel like KingK hit us with a lot more insight than whatever is going on in your brain right now.
Hey, no. It's insightful. It's a new take. Sometimes we need those fresh perspectives.
That's a lot of snaps.
But, oh no, hit the music. And so we are beyond thrilled to have today's guest, KingK, on the channel, who is very well known for his video essays on YouTube. So, KingK, if you wouldn't mind, could you tell folks who may not be familiar with your channel a little bit about yourself?
Well, I guess it's a bit trite to say I make video essays, but I don't know how else to describe it. 'Cause I don't know. I used to more prominently call them like retrospectives, and I guess they are. Depends on your definition of how you want to call my content, but I just make videos on games that I like. Sometimes I make videos on games I dislike, but these days I feel like I just don't have the energy to do that. I write about the things that I'm passionate about, and then I put them up on my YouTube channel, and it just so happens that it's a video game channel. I cover like Zelda and Pokemon and Final Fantasy, sort of. That hasn't happened in a while, but basically just anything I'm passionate about, which these days is an ever-growing list of things because I want to broaden my palette, as it were.
Definitely. So what, even before like starting creating videos, stuff like that, what kind of got you into gaming, just like in general?
Well, it's tough. I never actually knew what my first video game was because my parents will swear to me that we had an N64 and I played Banjo-Kazooie. I don't remember shit about that.
Oh no.
But apparently I did play it. I don't have any memory of it, but they'll tell you that I played it. But my earliest gaming memories are like I played Sonic and Knuckles, specifically Sonic and Knuckles on PC. Because my dad was big into PC gaming. He had like Quake and Doom and stuff back in the day. And so I would play on his PC Sonic and Knuckles because I guess he thought I'd be interested in it at the time, and lo and behold, I became a Sonic nutso for the rest of my life. But that was probably like the first conscious memory I have of playing something. And then from there, I got into Nintendo because we had a GameCube. Having my dad be into gaming sort of just meant that we had all the current consoles because he wanted them for himself. So like that helped.
That's the best.
I had a pretty diverse exposure to, like, I played a lot of Sly Cooper, I played a lot of Nintendo stuff, I played Halo, so I had like a pretty broad upbringing in terms of what games I was into and stuff.
Say less about Sly Cooper. That Like, Sly Cooper is one of my all-time favorite franchises. Like,
Yeah,
just
honestly,
in general.
same. But it's one that I played a lot when I was a kid. The trilogy, I
Yeah,
just play them all to death. Specifically 2 and
yeah.
3, because like nothing against 1, but I just was more into 2 and three's vibes. I played them
Mhm,
a lot, and then I
mhm,
think like later throughout my life, it's not necessarily that I grew distant from them. I guess I did grow
mhm.
distant from them, but I didn't start to dislike them or anything. They just kind of went to the back of my mind until recently. I've been thinking about maybe playing them again because they've always been pretty close to my heart, and I think Sly 3 in particular is one of my favorites. So
I tried introducing Allie to Sly Cooper recently because they're on PlayStation 5, but you have to stream the games.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it was
Uh,
so laggy.
yeah, it was the most abhorrent experience I've ever had.
yeah, unless you
Um,
have a good setup with a PS2, which I technically have, but it's cumbersome to set
mhm,
up. Like I have an OSSC, if you know what that is.
yeah,
It's a little cumbersome to set up, so I dabble in emulation, we'll say,
yeah,
for that.
yeah.
Because that seems like the only way to do it these days, because I'm not touching PS3 streaming. I hate that. I hate it. It never
Oh
works for me.
no.
Can't do anything with it.
N-
Which sucks, because a lot
n-
of games I want to play are stuck on the PS3, but whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with streaming games. I gave it a go. But it soured me on like easiest parts of the game, and so I'd rather just either emulate it, which I feel okay. I own the physical copies of the
Yeah.
or just like dust off the PS2 and try and find them from like an antique game store or like a retro game store.
You ran into a ton of issues with that with Sonic R though. That was a mess.
So you said Sonic and Knuckles was your first like tangible memory of gaming, right?
Yeah.
Mine was Sonic R. Like, which have you played Sonic R?
Yes. I played it much later in my life, but yeah.
That was my introduction to video games on the Sega Saturn. Looking back on it, it's not it's not the best game in the world, but I have such a nostalgia blindness for it
Mhm.
that I absolutely adore the experience
Yeah.
of going back to it.
I played it a bit. I love the soundtrack, of course, but
Yeah.
I never really got too into it. But it's like decent fun. If you can rope a few friends in somehow, it's cool. There's some like
It's
interesting tech in there. In some of the maps, you can like do some
yeah.
interesting skips and stuff. But I don't know. It's an interesting game.
Using the wall and the crash physics paired with the momentum to try and get skips. Yeah.
A friend of mine,
Um,
actually, Liam Triforce. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yes.
He's been a best friend of mine since the beginning. I've known him since like
Yeah.
2013-ish, around there. And we
Mhm.
both started YouTube together, basically.
Mhm.
And he made a great video on Sonic R. It's a bit older these days, but he has a really great
Yeah.
video on Sonic R, and it's like hidden potential and stuff, even though it is a flawed game. So I'd recommend that to
No.
people if you haven't seen it.
No, definitely.
I do really like the Sonic R soundtrack in general. I
It's
have to
great.
throw that in. You're so right. It's such a good soundtrack.
It's in my regular playlist. Whenever like one of those songs comes on in the car, I'm like, okay, it's time to blare. Let the windows down.
Yeah.
Blare.
Yes.
Let's go.
Just in the summer, can you feel the sunshine?
So moving on to like background behind your channel, because I know I'm personally curious on how you got started creating YouTube videos in general. I feel like everyone always has a different on-ramp for this.
So as a kid, I think I watched a lot of cartoons and stuff like SpongeBob, and I watched
Yeah.
all the regular stuff. But like as I grew into like middle school age, I kind of stopped watching TV as much and kind of transitioned over to YouTube as my main form of entertainment. And that was largely spearheaded by Chugga Conroy. Don't know if you've heard of him.
I love Chugga Conroy
Yeah.
with my whole heart.
Yeah.
He inspired me a lot too. I feel like everyone in the gaming space could say that, but he is just phenomenal.
He's my main inspiration. I've been watching him since when he was doing Super Mario Sunshine. I don't remember. It was like 2008 or something like that. I don't know. It was a long, long time ago. But I've been watching him since then. And it's kind of odd to say because my videos don't really resemble anything that he does. But He is still my main inspiration. He was what got kickstarted my drive to be like, I want to make YouTube videos. And I think in terms of like craft and what the videos resemble, they more follow people like a lot of analysis stuff like Joseph Anderson, or pretty much in the YouTube sphere these days it could be anybody, because a lot of the videos follow the same kind of like grouped as video essays and stuff. But yeah, that was like my main thing. I met some people along the way. I joined several podcasts. I fell in with different friend groups, and then from there I just kept making videos and tinkering with the format to see what truly I could make. And it's been a process that I still think that I'm going through, and maybe will never end.
Yeah, I feel like it almost feels like every month we change what we feel like we're going to be doing on the YouTube channel, and just being like, oh, this new trend is happening, or like, you know what, I've had some time to reflect on the content that I'm making and I kind of want to switch things up, because, you discover certain things you aren't as into anymore, like certain styles of video. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like we're just constantly changing.
Yeah. And I feel like it's cool kind of having almost that archive of how videos change, and how kind of like you change as the videos change as well, right?
Yeah. It is funny. I used to hate that all of my past was visible at once. Everybody could go back and be like, look how awful he was. Well, of course they don't say that, because
Aww.
that was when I had a much lower opinion of myself than I do now. But I kind of over the years have raised my self-confidence a bit, not to get too personal, but like I think looking back these days, I have a much better grip on that sort of thing. And I look back and I'm like, well, this stuff is like a much different breed from what I make now. And everybody grows from something. So I have a lot more appreciation for that.
Was there kind of an aha moment, I guess, when you kind of realized that instead of looking back at those videos like, oh no, because I feel like we all have at least that one video where it's like, oh gosh, why did I say those things, right? But did you have kind of an aha moment, or was it just gradual that you started accepting and kind of more embracing and appreciating that journey, I guess?
I think half of the equation is me finding mental help and learning to love myself a little bit. But the other half of that was probably me realizing that there's a lot of art, or even just YouTube videos, or like whatever you want to classify any of this as. A lot of that stuff that released years and years ago that I still happily go back to and love, even though the people that have made it have evolved past that like threefold.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that I did that, the more that I was like, well, I guess that's just what people do with my channel. And I can't be that harsh on myself, because everybody grows from somewhere. This is kind of an unconscious thing, but I feel like months and months ago, I started watching Haikyuu with my girlfriend, who is a massive, massive fan of Haikyuu. So we started watching it together, and I don't want to attribute it wholly to this show, but there was like kind of a paradigm shift I had watching it, where I was like, yeah, I guess growth is like it's always happening, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your starting point is something to be ashamed of, And so I think ruminating on that, like I do, I have a philosophy minor. I am a thought person. Yeah. I guess just with enough thought, enough reflection, I was like, I don't know why I'm so concerned with my past, when I really should be focusing more on the present moment, I guess, because that's what I care more about.
No, yeah. And I feel like being able to kind of look back at that while also saying, okay, I'm content with where I'm at now. If other people ascribe value to those older videos, then that's spectacular that they kind of find comfort in that older content, even if you're in a different place now, right?
Yeah.
A question that I have is, what does your kind of process look like when you're creating a video?
First and foremost, I've always been a writer. Back in like high school, trying to figure out where I wanted to go in life. I remember I entered a creative writing course, and the teacher there like saw something in what I was writing. And it was kind of weird, because there was never a class I was in where the teacher was like, you're the best at this. You know, I not to say I did badly in school. I have a pretty, I think I did pretty decently considering I just have a good memory. So it wasn't a very tough time in school. But I never had a teacher that was like, yeah, you're the best at this. Until the creative writing course, this teacher was like, you need to be writing fiction. And I was like, oh, well, shit. I guess I do. And I like it was kind of fun to do so, you know? I kept that energy throughout my life, and I kept having fun writing little stories and thinking about like, what can I make this into later in my life, you know? I think gradually sort of turned into script writing and stuff for YouTube videos because that was, tried to do let's plays and stuff, but it just wasn't working. And then I started script writing, and this has been my process for like God knows how long. I would just kind of thought dump is how I used to describe it. And there's a little more to it these days, but it really is just kind of like, what am I thinking right now? What is the thing I care the most about? And I need to get it all on the page before I can structure it. So I just get everything down that I'm feeling basically. And then afterwards, I'll read through it vigorously and then put it into some sort of structure. And these days, that's a little bit more of a process and takes a lot longer than it used to because I'm more interested in figuring out how to reflect the feeling of the game and reflect that in the structure of my video. So, like, for instance, the most recent video that came out was Breath of the Wild. And what I wanted to do there was because I feel like Breath of the Wild is a very blunt commentary on what Zelda could be. And it kind of like in the way that the durability system works there, it felt like as blunt as that, where they were like, we're going to take Zelda, we're going to break it and turn it into something new. And we don't really care what anybody thinks about it. And that's kind of the energy that I went into the Breath of the Wild video with, where I was like, I'm going to say my piece on what Zelda should or should not be, and to hell with the response to it. And I wanted the spirit of it to be fleeting and kind of feel a bit like you can only experience this thing in the moment. So to make a long story short, I spend the most time writing because that's the part that I care the most about. And then everything else is kind of like, whenever I get to the audio recording or editing stage, that stuff goes by pretty quickly because that's the more mechanical side of the equation. I can just knock that out pretty quickly. So.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. It also makes sense that you come from a creative writing background and more of that like storytelling, kind of like fiction aspect. Because I was listening to that How Breath of the Wild Broke 3D Zelda video, and I noticed that at parts of the video, it was almost pure storytelling of painting a picture for me. I can't really watch YouTube videos at this point in my life. I'm too busy. And so I was listening to it kind of almost like a podcast in the car over my speakers. And
I mean, don't worry. That's how I consume most YouTube stuff these days.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the same way.
I didn't even need to watch the video because you were so perfectly painting the feeling of climbing a mountain and looking out over Hyrule. Like, I could totally visualize that part of the game when you were talking about it. So it makes sense that you come from a creative writing background.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing too, is that I pour by far the most time into the scripts because, like, if you try to watch my videos, like I sometimes do some intentional visual stuff, but it's not like I try to make it so that it can be listened to as well, because that's how I primarily listen to stuff, you know? And at the end of the day, I want the words that I'm saying to be the most effective part of the video. So
being able to have videos that can be listened to are so important because having that be the strength of it will stick with people a lot longer term in a lot of instances, and specifically with the kind of content you make. I think that makes a lot of sense. I feel like kind of for the content we make with the psychology of videos, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but of like the persona characters. Yeah. Like that's kind of what we kind of try focusing on too, is like content first and then adding the visuals for someone who wants the visuals to be there. Mm-hmm. So I can definitely relate to that.
One thing that I did, speaking of your Breath of the Wild video, in the video you mentioned how you kind of changed your view of critique, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit. You had said that before you viewed critique like a math problem, And so, like, if one story moment was stupid, that would dock some points. But then if the level design was great, you'd add some points, and then you just find the overall sum to come to a conclusion about the game. And I used to review games in a really similar way, but I overall found that it was kind of keeping me from enjoying the small moments and empathizing with developers and their decisions about gameplay and just how they wanted me to feel in general. And so I I don't know, I just wanted to know, like, was there anything specific that made you change your approach to critique and overall see games for what they are and not for what you wanted them to be?
That's interesting. I can't pinpoint a specific time that this may have occurred. It feels like when you go back to my early Zelda stuff,
Mm.
the way I always described it was that I would feel a certain way about something, and then I'd work backwards from that, and then that could lead to a lot of like, yeah, you know, this thing does the story right, or it does the gameplay bad. I try not to like. I guess the best way to put it these days is that I try not to put things into categories anymore like that, because um we don't really experience art in that way, you know? Like when you watch a movie, I mean, like some people are probably like this was shot well and stuff, but like
Mm.
we don't really break down a story in the sense of like this part, this specific slice of it worked really well, but maybe not this specific slice. Like like when I watch a movie, I'm like, well, just like that really impacted me because all of its elements were working in tandem with each other to make this experience something special. And that's kind of the epiphany I had with games. The more and more that I made videos, the more that I was kind of butting up against my rigid mindset in terms of like, how am I going to know what this thing is trying to do for me? Like, how am I going to try and plug it into some arbitrary equation when really I should be searching for what it made me feel and why it made me feel that way in an ephemeral sense. Like, there's not really like there's not a good way to describe like if I play like Kingdom Hearts 2, for instance. And that video is actually, it's probably a long time ago that I made it these days because time is chugging along at a pace that frightens me, frankly. But
Yeah.
I remember when I was making that video, I was like, yeah, you know, a lot of stuff in this, some people might look at and just be like, this is really dumb. I'm like, that's fair. But
Mhm.
when I look at it, I'm not plugging it into some like weird objective equation where I'm like, yeah, the characters were really this or that. What I look at is this game made me cry a lot, and it still does, and it has characters in it that I relate to on like a spiritual level almost. Like it just has vibes that are immaculate and takes me back to a time that I don't know. It's like a time capsule. It's a lot of stuff I said in that video, but basically from that point onward, I feel like every video I made was 1 inch closer to being what they are now, in the sense that
Mhm.
I just want to see, I want to look at what something made me feel, why it made me feel that way, and how it matches up with what the people making it probably wanted it to be. Because I want to be charitable. I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest flip that I've had in my mind, where there's a really, really strong empathy I feel towards people making games and art in general, especially if I am not versed in that background. Because for the people making games, I have no idea what goes into that. I just don't. I'm
Mhm.
like a critic on the outside looking in. I'm like a connoisseur of games, but I never made them. I don't know how that feels. I don't know what it's like to put that out into the world. I know what it's like to put videos out in the world, I guess, but I want to be as charitable as possible. And I think the peak of this came with when Pokemon Sword and Shield were coming out. And I'm not looking to call anybody out or like, cause like, I don't think the games are great. I think that they kind of suck. Like, like I get it. But the way that I've always looked at Pokemon is that it's like a runaway train that like thrives off of our like economic system. It is like the most profitable thing in existence, and like nobody can really stop it even if they wanted to. And it's just kind of like a train that if you remove any of the gears, it's going to fall apart. And yet the way people looked at it was the people making this are being lazy, And that always made me feel like there's just a misunderstanding here. Like, who goes into something like creating a work of art and says to themselves, yeah, I just don't care about this? Like, who devotes that much of their
Yeah.
life to this, you
Yeah.
know? And it's like, I don't want to assume the worst of somebody. I just don't.
Mhm.
And sometimes I play something and I don't like it. And that happens. Happens a lot. But I don't want to jump to the conclusion that the people who made it were just foolish because they didn't adhere to something that I wanted. And it's far more likely that I, as a person, just was never going to gel with this. It was never going to be something for me, and not everything needs to be for me. And so I am going to continue to find the things that are for me and just move on with my life. And so I don't know if that answered the question, but there you go. That's the answer.
No, it did. And honestly, well, okay, so slight background on me. I work at a game studio. I don't really talk about too much about it, pretty
Yeah.
private about it, but and I'm sorry to like, my uncle works at Nintendo right now, but
Yeah.
not my uncle, but I had a friend who worked for Nintendo of America during the time in which Sword and Shield came out. And boy howdy, my friend was on the communications end, and they had to go through all of the messages and all the tweets that people were sending of saying like, we hate this game and whatever. And I know that he would just look at it and be like, oh my gosh, if only they knew. Like, if only they knew how much these developers cared about this game. And that's pretty much the sentiment from everyone that I've ever talked to in the game dev space. Every developer says pretty much the same thing, that like, they don't understand the meeting, like the scrum we had yesterday morning that said like we had to change X, Y, and Z or else we wouldn't get funding, or, you know, whatever random happenstance came up that ultimately had to change the way that the game was going to go and the scope and all the different things. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into making a game, and the biggest thing is care and how much they just pour their life into making these games. And so having that approach on your side of being a content creator and just wanting to know and be charitable and understand where developers are coming from and wanting to know how it makes you feel, it's totally cool if you don't like a game. That's a totally understandable conclusion to come to.
Not every game is for everyone.
Exactly. But I feel like so many people online, like you said, they just jump to that automatic assumption that, oh, they didn't care, they just wanted a quick buck.
Yeah.
And no.
The venom in the worst case scenarios. Like, it makes me think of the Psychodicy. There's a big documentary on YouTube about the full creation, the development cycle of Psychonauts 2, where it's in the game studio and game devs it's kind of like an office situation, I guess.
Yeah, kind of is structured like that.
Like The Office a little bit, but more, you know, the trials and tribulations of making that game. And I don't know, me getting a chance to kind of take a peek in the development cycle of a game like that, I feel like these are real people who put real passion behind something, and maybe a game turned out maybe even not how they wanted in a specific way, whether it's Sword and Shield or, you know, who knows what could have happened. But like, kind of supporting the developer and understanding that they probably tried to make the best game possible, and there's a lot of good and there's, you know, sometimes some not good in some of these games. Sword and Shield, another good, like, again, a good example of that.
Yeah.
But finding that the humanity behind the art is so important in that process, and not villainizing people for a product, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, like, there's also the reality that what people make, it's not like sometimes along your journey of making things, you're not always going to be at your best making something, and sometimes you put something out that you look back on later and you're like, well, maybe that wasn't my best work. And that's just a fact of life, you know. I look back in some of my videos and I'm like, I don't know, I probably could have put more into that, but at the end of the day, the clock's moving and you just got to move on. But I feel like a lot of people are fixated on the failures that have existed, and like somebody like an artist. I think Taika Waititi. This is really random, but Taika Waititi is one of my favorite filmmakers, and he's made a lot of awesome films, and everybody loved like Thor Ragnarok or whatever. I like Jojo Rabbit and stuff. Like I've been trying to dive into more of his back catalog, but I really enjoy him. And he made Thor Love and Thunder, and a bunch of people hated it. And now the prospect of him ever coming back is like met with like this, I don't know, repulsion. And I'm like, he made one thing that people didn't like, and it's just a bit like, it's weird to me that this, like, we've now painted him into this weird villain. Like, I don't know. It feels like, I don't know, where did the humanity go in online discussion? And I just want to bring a little bit of that back with my channel. And I want to be as charitable as possible while not disrespecting what was put out there and, like evaluating something on the terms that they would want it to be evaluated. Like, I'm not going to pull my punches, but I just want to be respectful,
Yeah, I love that approach.
Yeah, really everyone deserves respect. And in the case of, like, you mentioned Taika Waititi, everyone's like, yeah, thank goodness, because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, he lost a Star Wars film recently, or he was slated to do Star Wars, and now everyone's like, yeah, he shouldn't do Star Wars anymore. And I think people look for the villain of the week, I guess, sometimes, and then move on just as quickly. And being able to give that respect to these creative people who have made really genuinely amazing things, that if there is, something that doesn't resonate with you, say, okay, like, didn't resonate with me, time to move on. I feel like we see that a lot with Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Final Fantasy 16 was a trip, an online discourse.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy, was it. Because, like, I adore Final Fantasy 16, but I can see why people, might not be as favorable on it, but,
I really loved it myself. And I can definitely see the points at which it struggles. Especially from, like, I know the points at which I lost interest in it, but I still came out of it really loving it. And I think that's another thing too, is that a lot of my favorite games have like really, really low points that I just hate. But I think the older that I get, the more that I realize that, like, perfection is not something I care about, because it just, like, at the end of the day, if I love something and I'm sobbing or crying my ass off, I don't know, like, it doesn't matter how many low points there were, because at the end of the day, it's a strong favorite of mine and it affected me emotionally. That's all I really care about. So that's why I champion games like, I don't know, Kingdom Hearts 3. I think that game had a lot of low points, but at the end of the day, it did what it set out to do for me and wrapped up, not like a, what do you call it? A collection of games that have been building for like my entire life. And I thought that it did that in the best way that it possibly could, with the odds stacked against it. And I don't know. I focus more on what I come out of something feeling than I do looking back and saying, oh, look at all this shit that it did wrong. Because nothing's perfect, and perfection is a sham anyway, and nobody should ever be held to it.
Yeah, because really it's like, it's an unobtainable dream. Like, perfection's really an illusion. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's subjective anyway, like all things.
Yeah.
Like, nobody can define perfection objectively, and that the people who do are just playing a losing game.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, making games, if you think about it, it's just like the world's most insane group project known to man.
Yeah.
Like, how often do you have a group project that goes well? Like, never. And that's with like 3 other people. And it's just about some like stupid thing you had to research for class. It's like 4 pages of a paper you're supposed to write in a little presentation. And then try to just increase that exponentially with like 2 years, 3 years, sometimes even more, working on a game with people of all different backgrounds, and they're taking vacations, they have lives outside of this. Like, trying to find perfection or even create perfection in a game, it's the world's worst group project.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring up Kingdom Hearts 2, because right now, well, I'm playing through it with Allie. Right now, I've played through Kingdom Hearts 2 like 1 billion times at least.
Yeah.
But this is Allie's first time experiencing Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw so many videos that were about the lore being nuts, and just the story being the most intense funny thing, just so involved. And I don't know, I thought it sounded really good. And I had moments where I had played like the very beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2 and I thought Roxas was cool, and I don't know, I was into it at the beginning. I played that one DS game. What is that? 358 over 2?
It could either be that or
I got the
Coden, but
numbers
you were
right.
probably playing 358 days, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that was good, but I was like young and had terrible memory and didn't remember much of anything except that I thought it was a fun time. So now we're going through it again.
Yeah.
It's good.
And I noticed, like, with Square games, the highs are very, like, a lot of Square Enix games, the highs are so high, and then there's a dip, and then the highs are back high, you know, and it's almost cyclical in nature. But they're also, like, my favorite games in the universe. That a lot of times that come out of Square Enix.
Because that's the thing, too, is I look at a game like FF16, and, like, people constantly point to the low points of that game, which I don't even necessarily think are super low. I just think they're kind of, at worst, a little boring. But, like, still, some of those moments have, like, cool character stuff or whatever. And, like, you know, I enjoyed my time overall with it. But when I think back on the game, I think of the moments in it that I have not experienced in another video game ever. And I don't know. I guess that is a lot with, like, Square games. Specific, like, even with Kingdom Hearts, because Kingdom Hearts has a lot of wacky, weird shit in it. It's some of which I just have to gloss over in my head because it's frankly really absurd and weird. But at the end of the day, the journey it took me on was something that I value the high points of it. And I don't know. It's not something that everybody can really adopt, I guess. And nobody needs to. But it's definitely something I learned over the years that I think it's just a lot healthier to approach these things. Like, if it's not for me, then I'm just gonna leave it behind. But if it is, who cares what stumbles it makes, as long as the sun that it's holding up is shining still.
With games like this, I don't know if you ever feel this way, but sometimes when I'm playing games, even games like I normally wouldn't make videos on or around, my brain kind of goes to the idea of like, okay, how can I turn this into content for the channel? Or like, what's the opportunity cost of playing this game versus replaying, you know, Persona 3, 4, or 5 for the millionth time so I can have a fresh perspective on the characters I want to make a video on. So like, since starting the channel, do you ever find it tough to enjoy games without having thoughts of like, how can I turn this into content?
Sometimes. I guess it depends. A lot of multiplayer games that I play with friends, I don't really have thoughts about. And that's nice. Because playing games with friends, I think, is the point at which I never have those thoughts ever. But there are some times when I'm playing newer games, and sometimes I'll be like, oh, maybe I want to say something about this. But then that ends up being a lot of the things that I like, because I just like talking about the things that I like. In this year especially, there have been dozens of things that I like that came out and are still coming out. So it's been a bit tough, especially because the way my video schedule works, I can only get so many videos out per year. Even if I do want to work on so many other things at pretty much all points in time. But I only have so much that I can really do, and it's honestly a struggle to figure out what my next video is even going to be. So, like right now, after I'm making a Tears of the Kingdom video right now, but after that, I was thinking, well, maybe I'll do Pokemon X and Y because people want that. But then I was like, well, I wanted to replay Xenoblade 3 because that game means so much to me, and I feel like I can get a lot out of that. But then I finished Sea of Stars, and that game was really awesome, and I think that it's a triumph in so many ways, and like it's like a sequel that's in a different genre, and I think that's amazing, and I want to write about that. And then it's like it just goes on and on and on. And I feel like every game I play, pretty much, I have thoughts of like, I could make this into a video, and then like 90% of the time they just don't ever happen. So in that respect, I pretty much just go with the flow, and whatever ends up happening happens, I guess.
Being able to kind of choose a direction on like, okay, what's the next video gonna be, can be so like just kind of have to go with what your gut tells you, I guess.
Yeah.
At least that's kind of how I operate. If I feel passionate about a certain project, I'll like commit to that idea and then just kind of go with it until completion. And so you're part of another podcast, right? Being part of the Unversed cast. So how did that get started, if you don't mind my asking?
That was around when I started YouTube, I think a little bit after. It feels like ancient history, but it was pretty much just a collection of some of my earliest friends, Haydox and Exo Paradigm Gamer and Ryrule now that he goes by. And we all got together and we were like, let's make a podcast. And we just started one, and then we started talking about games, and then sometimes we read stupid fan fictions. And
I love that.
That's we've pretty much just been trucking ever since. Haydox kind of dropped off the internet generally, unfortunately, but he's off living his life, so it's just me, Exo, and Ryan. But we still try to find the time to record stuff. We don't get together as often as we used to. We have busy lives, but I think just the other day we recorded an Uno session because there's a meme. The big meme was we were doing our Toy Story 2 playthrough, and Exo had said, has anyone even played Uno? Like, he said that unironically, and Ryan and I were just flabbergasted. We were like, you've never played Uno? Excuse me? And we were like, we have to play Uno. So we finally played Uno on Tabletop Sim, and that'll be coming out at some point. But yeah, it's just a fun little thing that we do in our off time whenever we want to get together and talk about games or just bullshit, basically. So yeah,
the Uno thing is hilarious because I have a like I don't know why I would talk about this. I have a deep disdain for that game.
Yeah.
A deep disdain for Uno. Because like when I was in probably like 6th grade, 7th grade, I was on like a camping trip with like my class, and I was the new kid in school, and we had I kid you not, like a 6-hour Uno game.
How does it even go that long?
6-hour Uno game. Do you do the house rule where you keep drawing until you get a color?
Yes.
Because that would definitely elongate a game.
Yeah. And there was like a lot of us, so we combined 2 decks, which we thought was a good idea.
Oh no.
Well, there was like a lot of us though. And so it was 6 hours at a campsite. It was raining. We were underneath like we were under like a tarp, like a canopy, like by a camper.
Wow.
Like, and people would have to sub out to eat.
Sub out, man. I wouldn't have the fortitude to keep up with that. I'd just give up.
Well, same typically, but I was the new kid, so I didn't want to be the one who was like, no, I quit.
Yeah.
Because everyone was playing, so I didn't want to sit by the fire, the rainy fire. I guess.
I feel like 6 hours is longer than the longest Monopoly game I've been in, which is quite impressive.
Yeah, it's a 6-hour Monopoly game.
Because Monopoly is basically designed to never end, but I don't think any Monopoly game has gone that long for me, which is crazy.
Okay, I don't know if it was the unluckiest combination of cards in the world, or if we just weren't playing right, which is very possible, or like all of the above. But so you said Uno, and I had like flashbacks to that awful moment in my life.
That makes a lot of sense, because when we were in college, someone brought out a deck of Uno cards, and you just got a glazed over look in your eyes. You look like you had war flashbacks.
Yeah.
And now that makes a lot more sense. I didn't know this story.
Yeah, I don't talk about it. It's too tough. But no, that's awesome that you're able to just kind of like reconnect with them every now and then, and just like have fun, and like, and be able to kind of like post that, even if it's something as terrible as Uno.
Yeah.
Something that I've been thinking about a lot lately are, different franchises, like, and this is kind of going away from the channel, I guess, a little bit, but like different franchises that I feel like don't get the attention that they deserve. Like, one for me is like the Dot Hack franchise, right? Do you have any franchises that you personally really love that you wish they got a little bit more kind of love or notoriety?
Klonoa.
Okay.
That is my go-to answer instantly. I would say that if I was held at gunpoint, my favorite game would be Klonoa 2. Probably. Sometimes I wonder. Xenoblade 3 really hit me, but I don't know. Klonoa 2 is the one I always go back to because that was that game I played as a kid on the PS2. And I played through it and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And then I'd talk to my friends about it and they'd be like, I have no idea what that is. And for pretty much my entire rest of my life, I was like, oh, nobody knows what the hell Klonoa is, I guess, unless you live in the UK, where apparently it was popular. But yeah, I like Klonoa is one where like I think recently it got remasters and stuff, which was really, really cool. I don't know what this says about me, but I teared up a little bit when they announced that. I genuinely did, because Klonoa's been dead for a long, long time. And they had they were trying to make a movie at one point, and then years went by and it just got canceled. And I pretty much had reached a point where I had accepted. Like I went through the stages of grief with Klonoa and I was like, yeah, this is never coming back. It's okay. So when they announced that, it kind of hit me a bit. And I'm glad that it got that, because I don't know that I ever need Klonoa to come back. Like a lot of people want certain franchises to come back, like F-Zero or whatever, which I guess it did come back technically.
F-Zero 99.
Yeah, which on the off tangent here is a really, really fun game, surprisingly. But
I love F-Zero 99.
Yeah.
I'm so like I play it like more than I'm proud of.
Yeah,
it was
think
like,
I would like it.
Surprisingly, I thought it would be a monkey's paw thing, but it was actually like is really good.
Yeah,
and it kind of, I'm not too familiar with F-Zero, but from what I played of the SNES game, it feels like what that game was always supposed to embody, like a multiplayer thrill racer, where like you get to like the later parts of the Grand Prix in '99, and you like, I remember I got to the final race once and I was sweating buckets because I was like, if I die here, then it's over. And you just don't get that with other racing games, so it's really cool that F-Zero is able to come back like that. But basically, I don't need Klonoa to have like a moment like that. I'm okay to just let it be what it was. I'm increasingly okay doing that with a lot of things that I love these days. But I do kind of wish that it just got more attention. I hope to make a video on Klonoa one day and just make it the best thing that I've ever made. And then maybe get it across people's eyes a little bit more. Just give it more attention. I don't need it to ever come back. I just want more people to appreciate Klonoa for they're some of the best platformers that I've played, and they're very special to me. So yeah, Klonoa is definitely my answer.
I was not familiar with Klonoa until it got announced for, like, I was passive, like I had seen it, you know, like, and just not been familiar with the games because they were on the PS2, correct?
Yeah, well, Klonoa was on the PS1, and then Klonoa 2 was on the PS2, and there have been various remakes and spin-offs and stuff. Yeah.
I wasn't super familiar with them till they got the remaster, or the remake. I get messed up on what the difference is sometimes, but like, and they do look like just a magical kind of fun platformer game.
Yeah.
Because I adore platformers in all kind of shapes and sizes, from Psychonauts 2 to like the Mario games to, you know, A Hat in Time to select, you know, I feel like platformers are one of the most interesting and like unexpectedly expressive genres of games. Yeah. And so, no, I can definitely appreciate that.
I think Klonoa, I definitely recommend it. It is deceptively emotional. And it like, the best way I can describe it is that they feel like dreams. And I think that was the point, is that they feel very ephemeral and like, I don't know. I just love them. I hope to make a video about it soon, someday.
Yeah.
And I'll pour my heart and soul into it when I do.
They feel like dreams. That's, wow. I need to know what that means. Like,
yeah.
I want to play it just from that alone. Dang. Okay. Hello. Sold me on Klonoa just now. And I'm not even a platforming girly. Like, that's not really my type of game. I'm a farming sim just cozy gamer kind of
Yeah.
gal, but yeah, they feel like dreams. I want to know what that means.
I hope I'm not overselling it, but yeah, that's definitely the takeaway
No.
I get from Klonoa.
So, like, outside of the channel, outside of maybe even games, what do you do that keeps yourself sane?
Well, it depends. I'm into so many different things. Sometimes I write short stories because one of these days I want to write like a big time story. I don't know if it'll be in a game, in a book. I don't know. Who knows? But there are many big story ideas I have that I want to realize. So I try to dedicate as much time to it as I can. Outside of that, spend time with friends and family is kind of a generic answer, but yeah, spend time with my girlfriend, stuff like that. And then, like I don't really watch a lot of TV. I watch movies when I feel like I want to go see them, but I think the most that I do outside of games is like I watch anime and stuff and read manga. I think it kind of varies what I'm most interested in, but like I read One Piece weekly, and I also read like Chainsaw Man and various other things that I'm caught up with tentatively. Spy Family, another one.
Oh, yes.
I love Spy Family. I'm so excited it's coming back.
Yeah.
Anime.
Season 2.
I kind of wish I didn't binge the entire manga because it only updates every 2 weeks, which is like agony. But I also am very happy that the manga authors are not being broken by their release schedules anymore. It seems like.
Yeah.
Even if I have to wait longer, it's okay. But yeah, I'm glad that Spy Family's coming back. I'm excited for the movie.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm watching a bunch of stuff. Do you watch Horimiya? I love Horimiya. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yes.
We love that so much. I feel like that's one that is going to stick around with me for the rest of my life. Just how special that anime is to me. We started watching it when we had first moved into our apartment, and we had like no furniture. We didn't even have like a TV stand. It was just a TV in a room and then a little table to put it on. And we had to scooch the TV really close to the couch so that we would even be able to see it because it was the tiniest screen. And we were just so excited every single week because John, you were finishing your master's.
Yeah.
So we weren't living together. We just had this apartment that we were very slowly furnishing. And we would just, at the end of the night, after we got back from IKEA or wherever and had finished building whatever little cabinet or table we had purchased that day, we would turn off all the lights and get all snuggled up on the couch and just watch Horimiya. And it just was the most magical thing.
Yeah.
I love Horimiya.
I feel like
it has vibes that are hard to describe, but just feel, I don't know. I love that show.
It's so
great.
Special.
I like the fact that but I like the fact that they feel like real people and real scenarios, and I almost like I've seen online some people don't like how fast-paced it can be at times, but I honestly love that about the show because it feels like you're getting like little quite literally slices of real life from these characters and what they're experiencing and how they relate to each other. And there doesn't need to be like this grand overarching there are storylines, but like this grand overarching plot is something more akin to like Fruits Basket or something like that, if you've ever seen that.
No, actually I haven't seen Fruits Basket.
Oh, it's very good.
Highly if you like Horimiya, I think you would like Fruits Basket. It's a different
I have a
vibe.
feeling. Because, like, if you're not familiar, my favorite work of fiction, until One Piece finishes and I come to grips with that, my favorite work of all time is Clannad.
Yeah.
I watched that back in, like, beginning of high school, and it rocked the foundations of everything I knew life to be. And that may sound dramatic, but, like, it did. It was what got me into anime because I didn't used to watch anime before then. That's why I watched like basically every romantic anime that existed, like Toradora and shit like that. But And ever since then, I just pine for that sort of shit. So I definitely want to watch stuff like Fruits Basket, because I think I'd be really into it. It's just, I don't know. There's a lot out there. I'm trying to make my way
Yes.
through it.
Oh yeah.
But Horimiya was
No.
one that popped up, and I was like, this is exactly what I wanted. And looking back, honestly, as a 25-year-old going on 26 and been out of high school for like close to 10 years, and who met my girlfriend in high school, and we've been together almost 10 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, it kind of hits close to home in a lot of ways. And I think it being such a short series, kind of like random short stories, especially with the second season, which is just a bunch of random stuff that they cut out of the webcomic. It really feels like, when I look back on my days in high school, which were filled with ups and downs, but like in the moment, I didn't realize how fast it was going by until it was all over, you know? And that's kind of the feeling I get watching Horimiya, especially with it just feels like, oh man, the show's over now. Like, and that it just flew by like a semi truck. Like, I don't know. I think that was the intent probably of the author of the webcomic. At least I think so. I don't know.
No, that makes sense. And I never thought about it like that, but you're 100% right. Like it feels like kind of that high school experience where it's just like a whirlwind of like, you have the goods, you have the bads, you have the drama, you have the friendship, you have the the ups, the downs, and then it's done. And it's just like, whoa,
Yeah.
that was an experience.
Mm-hmm.
One thing you had mentioned, Clan Ad, I have to ask, does that play into how you got your name? Like,
Yes.
because it's Kingdom Clan Ad, correct?
Yes. I can't listen to the music or think about Clan Ed some days without getting into a deep, bad headspace. Not a bad headspace, but you know what I mean, like a sorrowful one.
No, yeah.
Oh gosh.
It really, really, really hit me. The atmosphere of that show, the music especially, and I don't know, it like really affected me. I don't even know how to describe it until I write it all down. And one day, maybe I will write about it. I don't know.
Mhm.
I really love Clan Ed. Can't describe to you right now why, but it just has immaculate vibes,
Yeah.
and the atmosphere is, I can't describe it. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes things are too good that you can't even.
Yeah.
You just have no words.
And sometimes, like, I feel like it's nice to just be able to kind of hold on to the experience
Yeah.
and just kind of ruminate on it for a while. Like, whether it's, a month or, 10, 15 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say like an experience I kind of feel similarly of like, I just don't know how to express why I love it so much. It's a game, but it's Breath of Fire 3. I don't know if you've ever played. It's on the PlayStation 1. It's a JRPG, and like that game, it's not like the best game in the universe, but like it means such a profound amount to me, like personally, and like who I am. I can tell you I love it, but to like boil it down to why, I don't know if I could like in the moment without going on like into a dissertation why that is.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. That's how I felt. I was feeling that with Persona 4 for a long time. I didn't really know how to make a video on it. And then eventually I kind of realized why I loved it, and then I was able to put that down. But sometimes it's just hard. You don't really know why. It just feels good.
Yeah, for me, I think that game is Chrono Cross, which is controversial because I think a lot of people hate Chrono Cross.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I don't know what it is about it. I'm still trying to figure it out. But every time I play a game, and we've kind of made a meme of it with just John and I, where every time we play a game, I go, wow, I bet they were inspired by Chrono Cross for that. Because I can just find the beauty of Chrono Cross in any game. And every single experience I have leads me right back there. I don't know why, but yeah, that's mine.
Well, and that's what I like to champion with my channel these days, especially, is that we all have our own experiences with something, and they're very personal a lot of the time. And the battle for objectivity is fruitless when our subjective experiences are so much more fascinating anyway. Like, that's what people want to come to hear. Is it the stories like that? Like, why does Chrono Cross mean so much to me? Or why does, people want to come listen to that, because that's a hell of a lot more interesting and says something both about the piece in question and about the person in question. There's an exchange there. So
yeah, I want to know something that I always think is really fascinating is when people latch on to like a random topic and they could talk about it endlessly. And so is there a random topic, it doesn't even have to be gaming related, that you could give just like a 30-minute presentation on without any preparation at all?
I don't know. What would you two say that would be if you have it, to help me out here? Because I need to think.
Yeah. For me, I really weirdly latched on to color theory. And so I think that if I, like, gun to my head, someone said, you have to give a 30-minute presentation on something I want to learn, let's go, then I could be like, well, let me tell you about where hexadecimal colors come from and, like, how you could figure that out. Like, this is why FFFFFF is white and 00000 is black. Like, let me tell you all about it. And so I just, like, weirdly attached myself to random color theory knowledge. I could go on and on and on about it.
Yeah. And for me, this sounds so strange, but it's the construction and the how ropes courses work. Because I used to, this also sounds like an insane thing to say, I used to do group counseling at a ropes course in like a rock climbing wall. So I'd like work with, kids or like groups to do like counseling and like team building at a ropes course. And so I had to like learn, like, because you need to understand how it works to like know all the safety side of things. But I found it so interesting, like the different grips on a rock wall. And I'm not even that good at climbing or ropes courses. I'm scared of heights, but like I know a lot about it, right? And so like I could talk about, oh, this is why they need to use galvanized aircraft cables to make sure that it's secure as people are like going across. And these are the different belay techniques to get someone up the wall. And it's called, when you're climbing a rock wall, they say on belay because that's the French word for rope. Like,
oh wait, really?
Yeah. So I would say that's mine. And building resumes, but that's because I'm a nerd and I think resumes are interesting.
I'm realizing I don't know. I don't really feel like I have specialties outside of what I do for YouTube in terms of like writing and stuff. I feel like maybe there's been a part of me for a long time that's always wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted to teach like philosophy stuff. I find the act of asking questions about existence to be very like, there's some anxiety rooted in there, but like genuinely, I think the beauty of human existence is that we all approach life in different ways. And we all have different answers and different questions about life. I just think that that's very fascinating. And I could go on and on and on and on about shit like that. Because there's... I'm the type of kid who would constantly ask questions. I'd be like, why is this way? Why is that way? Why is this way? And it just kind of naturally led me on the track to be like, yeah, I'm a person who asks questions. So I think it'd be cool to like teach a philosophy course or something. I don't know. I don't really have any like specialties outside of that I'm confident in, to be honest. I mostly just have crammed my head with useless game knowledge.
Well, I would say clearly it's not been useless.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I would argue that it's been very useful game knowledge.
That is true. That is true.
But no, I think that makes sense. And just the philosophy side of things, I feel like just hearing people talk or even just having discussions about that is one of the most interesting things just in general. My brother was a philosophy major. So growing up, like I would hear a lot about that. And like that was something I always thought was really cool, was being able to hear all of the different things he was interested in and kind of those contemporary philosophy in the past, how that differs from like more modern philosophers and all of that stuff. And so, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. I would say that my ropes course knowledge, like it does not serve me well anymore.
Yeah, I
What
mean,
if
like,
you
I
were
could
next
go
to a
on about
mountain?
like logical reasoning and stuff, and with stuff that Socrates said, but it's probably not going to be very useful in modern conversation.
Well, yeah, but I feel like that's the cool thing is like just like the random things that we know or like that we've kind of latched onto throughout our lives. It's like
Yeah.
this might not be the most practical thing, but like I could like I'm we're familiar with it and like could just like dive into a dissertation. I've said dissertation a lot.
It's your word of the day.
Word of the day. But I don't know. We always like to kind of close the podcast, right? Unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about, Allie.
No.
We've talked about this already a little bit, but what are you currently like playing or watching right now?
Oh, well, I mostly went into what I'm watching. I think honestly, after we're done wrapping this up, I might catch back up with Jujutsu Kaisen or something.
Oh,
So I hear that's good right now, and I watched the first season a long time ago. So I might do that, or like I might play more Danganronpa 2. I've been playing that. In terms of what I'm playing as well, it feels like this year has not been kind. I mean, it has been kind in that it has been very bountiful. Games come out like every day, but it has been,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
as someone who likes to keep up with current games, it has been a nightmare to keep up with all of these
Brutal.
games. I'm still playing things like Bomb Rush, Cyberpunk. I'm on like the last level. I just need to do it. I'm almost done
Yeah.
with it. I really love that game. I finished Sea of Stars. I feel like that was a while ago. I 100%ed Tears of the Kingdom. Well, 100%. I did all the shrines and stuff. I did all the shrines and light roots. That's about 100% for me. I don't really feel like doing everything else. But and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff. I've had bad thoughts about restarting Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I really shouldn't do right now because there's so much else I need to do. But my mind's like, hey, I've been watching a lot of theories about FF7 Rebirth, and my mind's like, you should play it again. I'm like, I don't have time.
Yeah.
Why do you want me to do this? But yeah, that's like the gist of it. There's a whole bunch of other stuff, but I have a whole media thread if anybody wants to see what I've been doing.
That's
Yeah.
so funny you say that about Final Fantasy VII Remake because I'm currently being the like worm in John's ear. I'm like, what if you played that? What if you did that one? Let's do that. Like we're in the middle of Kingdom Hearts 2 right now, and I'm like, ooh, but Final Fantasy VII though.
Have you played through
Yeah.
it? Or do
I
you want
haven't.
to? Is that more?
I've personally never played Final Fantasy VII. I don't know what happened, but I missed that one and skipped straight to 8. And I didn't even beat that one. I was bad at playing games as a kid. I just never beat anything. I would get like 5 hours in and then go, "Wow, what beautiful art in this little pamphlet that came in the case with the game. Let's stare at that for 10 hours
Yeah.
instead of playing." And I would come up with strategies on how I was going to play and plan out when I was going to play, but then never actually pick up a controller. And I was very bad at that.
Yeah.
But Final Fantasy VII, I wanna see it. I
I've
wanna
never
know.
finished. I never finished the OG game. I got to like the gold saucer and just there's a. I think the game crashed on Switch and sent me back a while, and then I was like, okay, I need a break.
Mm.
But remake, I know it's contentious, and I understand why it's contentious with a lot of
Yeah.
people, but I loved the fuck out of it, and I'm so excited for Rebirth.
I've played Remake, and I played through the whole original as a kid because I got a PSP for two things as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Birth by Sleep,
Oh yeah.
and well, three things: Birth by Sleep, Crisis Core, and that you could play Final Fantasy VII on the PSP, and so that was just like my life.
Crisis Core
Square.
was actually the first time I was introduced, besides Kingdom Hearts, obviously, because Cloud's in there. But
Yeah.
is the first time I was ever introduced to Final Fantasy VII was playing through Crisis Core, and what the hell of an introduction, because I grew an attachment with, and stuff happens in that game that really, really rocked my world when I was that young. So it was a very, very interesting introduction to FF7. The end of Crisis Core is one of my favorite endings in any game ever.
That game hits like no other find, like, in a way that I haven't experienced from another Final Fantasy to the same extent, specifically the ending of that game.
Well, that's kind of what sparked my love of FF7 in general, which is ironic because I have not finished the original game, but I am so intensely interested in that world and all of its characters that I basically know everything about it anyway. So I don't know.
I mean, we have the, Final Fantasy R trilogy.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy re-trilogy. So, like, I feel like what better of a way to go through it than with remake and rebirth and reintroduction.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
I always thought the third one would be Reunion, but then they took that title for Crisis Core, so now I have no idea.
Yeah, so we're probably gonna start that sooner. After we finish Kingdom Hearts 2, we'll probably start Final Fantasy.
Well, as much as I love Remake, prioritize Kingdom Hearts 2. That's my baby.
Yes.
Do that.
Oh yeah. I'm itching to play it.
I love that game.
I want to go back.
Kingdom Hearts, please drop. I'm in a content drought with Kingdom Hearts. I need trailers. I need something.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, anything. Even the mobile game that just they're ghosting us for.
I don't even like the mobile games, but just give me something, please.
Yeah.
It feels like it's been a millennia.
I feel like they have to drop something Kingdom Hearts 4 after Rebirth comes out.
I hope so.
Like, that has to be next on the docket. I might be fooling myself, but I'm rationalizing that is the case.
I really, really hope so. I just want more Kingdom Hearts.
Yes. Yeah, same.
But I'll always want more Kingdom Hearts, so maybe I'm just greedy.
Yeah, well, the more Kingdom Hearts, I literally when Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, I was a child. Like, I was literally a child when I got, like, the physical copy of it. I was like, oh my gosh, like, almost, like, weeping as
basically
the Skrillex
the same.
Face My Fears is playing.
I say this in my video, but I drove up to my GameStop. I was blaring Face My Fears because it came out on Spotify. That's all I would listen to for that week. It was, like, really, really snowy. I just remember that. I went home. I asked my dad if I could go to his house because he has a home theater set up in his basement. And I was like, I want to play it down there. And he's like, hell yeah. And I'm like, I got comfortable down there and I played it for like several days. And I thank my dad to this day for letting me do that because holy shit. That was like, I came out of that with a red face, we'll say. It was intense.
Wow, your dad is such a real one. He introduces you to games in general, and then he lets you use his home theater for several days to play Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. It was pretty cool.
I think the only other game we're playing, we just started Cult of the Lamb.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I haven't played that. Vibes. I don't tend to gel with roguelikes very often, but it looks cool.
It's fun. I'm, like, moderately into roguelikes, but this one, it hits the right spooky vibes for Halloween. So I love a good theme. And so I feel like I always have to play some Halloween adjacent game when it gets close to October. But
it's funny you say that because on October 22nd, I'll be in Japan. So I'm flying out with my girlfriend to go to Japan for 3 weeks. So during Halloween, I'll be in Japan, which seems kind of fitting, oddly. So that'll be cool.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh, have the best time.
We've both wanted to go for pretty much our entire lives. So that'll be the trip of a lifetime for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to visit the place that Persona 4 was based on. I told my girlfriend, I'm like, this needs to happen. We need to take like some part of one day of these 3 weeks so I can go visit that town. Because I've always wanted to.
You've played through Persona 5, correct?
Yeah. I played through 4 and 5. I played 5 like twice. So yeah.
This is gonna sound like the most psycho, just like crazy thing that ever. But if you want to know where Sojiro's Cafe is based off of,
oh hell yeah,
I have the address.
Hell yeah. No, I want to know. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So if you're looking for that, I'll send it over to you.
Hell yeah.
Because I did a video where I made a professional resume for Joker.
Just the
And,
most random video.
and I was like, this has got to be accurate. So we got to find the right address to put at the top of the resume.
Hell yeah.
So yeah.
Is that like a
Send them
cafe that's open and functioning? Like,
No, I don't know what it actually is. It looks the same, but I think they do sell food there, I believe. I'd have to double check. And I found this like 2 years ago, so it could have changed by now.
yeah.
But it looks exactly like it from the front, and I'm not quite sure what's inside, like what the storefront.
As long as I can take pictures, that's fine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
I feel like we've gone on an odyssey. I think that's all I have. Do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about, Ellie? Anything else you were playing?
No, really just trying to blaze through Kingdom Hearts 2, right? So that
Yeah.
we can... Well, not blaze through. I need to appreciate it all. We're not
Yeah.
playing Final Fantasy VII next. I'm wiping that from my memory. That's not happening. And I just want to appreciate the ending of Kingdom Hearts 2, because we're getting close.
We are getting very close.
Mm-hmm.
We're going through the second round of the Disney worlds now.
Mm-hmm.
So we just finished Beast Castle for the second time.
So you did the 1,000 Heartless? I love that.
That was insane.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. From like a game dev perspective, being able to see, and I'm on the marketing side, so it's not like I understand the mechanics of all of it, but I've gone to enough of their talks and like talked to enough engineers that I'm like, this is insane. I can't believe they did this. Like, just marveling at the ingenuity of these developers to figure that out. It was just amazing.
Yeah. I feel like that's like we were talking earlier about high highs.
Yeah,
Like-
that's one of the best highs in any Kingdom Hearts game. That's like from the moment they do the thing with Goofy and Mickey like rips his cloak off to Vim and Vigor, I'm like, this is peak gaming. It'll never get better than this.
And that it's funny you mentioned that part in particular, because that's one thing you had spoiled for you, but you didn't know the outcome.
Yeah.
So
The Goofy thing.
Yeah.
I had been waiting the whole game. I'm like, when is this happening with the goof? I need to know. And then it finally did, and it just didn't go the way that I thought it was gonna go. But it was nice to be a part of the meme and understand it. I felt a lot closer to the community after that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was so good.
No, yeah, that's so funny. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Where can people follow you?
My channel name is KingK. I have no idea what my social media stuff is anymore, but if you go to my YouTube channel, you will find all of that stuff linked somewhere. Yeah, it's basically where you can find me. I don't do a whole lot else. I think if you want to follow my Twitter or my X or whatever the hell people are calling it these days,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
you can go there. I keep a media thread on there just to document the things that I play and watch and stuff.
Awesome. And genuinely, thank you so much for coming on. It was so much fun chatting with you. And if you have not checked out any of KingK's videos in the past, make sure you go do that over on YouTube because they are such a treat. But that'll do it for this week's episode of ThoughtCast. If you haven't already subscribed to the ThoughtCast YouTube channel or the Thought Bubble YouTube channel, make sure to go check those out. And if you want to continue the conversation moving forward, join our Discord server too. And so if you want to listen to any of these podcasts early, then make sure to check out our Patreon because next week we are very excited for our guest Chris Stahl, where we get to talk about a lot of really awesome stuff. So check that out. Keep an eye out for that. And as always, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, a fantastic rest of your week, and why not even a fantastic rest of your month. We will see you next week. Later.
See ya.